Happy New Year's Eve, everybody. Matt Derrick with Chiefs Digest here. It might be a quiet afternoon and evening. Who knows? My good friend Chris, dear friend, no, longtime friend Chris, too. So great to see you, Chris. Happy New Year to you. Appreciate the message. It might be a Q&A with just Chris, Nick, and I. Who knows? Glad to hear from you all. Nick and I wanted to get in one more Q&A before the new year, and I know everybody's got some plans going out, so if you need to pop in, drop your question, and leave, I completely understand that. Wouldn't be surprised. And Nick has even made me promise that this is going to be an entire lightning round edition, so I just have to put up the graphic, of course, to remind me of that. But Brandon, Happy New Year to you. It's so awesome to see, regulars, see, Chris, Jesus popping in. Really appreciate it. And this is the fact that I have regulars on this channel is just absolutely mind blowing to me. I was thinking just as far as reflecting back over the last year, and really you go back to, I started this YouTube channel technically like 6 years ago, but I just sporadically put content on it, and it wasn't until the Super Bowl in Arizona. The kind of, I don't know if I've ever told this story, but kind of the background was that entire week my web host was having huge problems, and the Chiefs Digest site was down off and on throughout. And I thought everything was taken care of going into the game on Super Bowl night. Site went down again during the game. So really the only thing I had to do to publish the content that I had and the videos I was getting from the locker room was to put it on the YouTube channel, which, like I said, I'd just been sporadically using. And, Ryan Tracy over at Locked On Chiefs, who had been trying to get me to really, jump into the YouTube channel for Chiefs Digest for a while. So I decided to do it, and going into the 2023 season, tried to, bulk it up. And I remember in August of 2023, September 2023, thinking to myself, gosh, there's no way I'm going to be able to get enough users and everything to get enough hours watched to make it so that I can actually have a YouTube channel. But you all have done it. I'm incredibly grateful to all of you who've been so supportive over the years. And the fact that each week I see new people on here, it's absolutely incredible. Incredibly grateful. So I won't go into too much of a monologue. There might be some questions. Probably only one thing I will touch on kind of at the top, and because it came up, I asked Andy Reid about yesterday, and I know this has been a hot topic of discussion, but I kind of wanted to break it down. It's a Jaylen Watson question, and about whether Jaylen Watson can make it back. I know I've been saying all along, with Jaylen Watson, I'm not going to bet against him, but the odds are pretty long as far as him being able to come back. And I'm not making it up. I'm not doing that. When I say things like that, it's usually because it's what I'm hearing from people who just maybe don't have their names attached to it or don't want their names attached to it. But I know with what Andy told me yesterday, I think everybody's been kind of taking it two different ways. I understand taking it the optimistic way, which is that Andy Reid's saying there's a chance. But he also said it's a stretch, and I think that's important. Not that I'm not trying to keep anyone from getting their hopes up, or I'm betting against Jaylen. Jaylen's a good dude. And I'm never gonna root against a player. That's just not what I do. I don't believe in that. I'm not. And even if what I'm telling you ends up being wrong, I'll happily be wrong. But it's just, don't expect too much from a player that can't control his body and can't control his injury. If he comes back early, that's great for Jaylen Watson, but Chiefs aren't betting on it. Because once again, that's an injury that, based on his surgery, 12 weeks would be the absolute optimum, and that is optimum as far as him being back. Like I said, the Chiefs' expectation all along, when he might even be just medically cleared to resume football activities, might be the week before the Super Bowl. And that would mean, maybe his first practice would be before the Super Bowl. I can't imagine a player, going that long and being able to play at a Super Bowl level with a week of practices. and that being during Super Bowl week. I mean, I go back to last year when the Chiefs were telling us that Brian Cook was day to day. I mean, or week to week. Brian Cook had surgery. There was no way in the world that Brian Cook was going to play, but the Chiefs were just kind of saying, well, maybe. I mean, they were kind of keeping it out there, I think, a little bit just to keep opponents guessing and everything. Maybe it was a little bit for Brian's morale. I don't know. But the dude had surgery on his ankle and hardware was involved. I mean, it wasn't going to happen. So, I mean, that's why if Jaylen Watson comes back, great for him. I'll be ecstatic for him. I just don't want anybody getting, pumped up based on what they heard from Andy Reid yesterday, saying Jaylen Watson's going to be back, because the odds are still against it. And like I said, it's great for him. The video of him, jogging and everything. More power to him. Hope he does get back for his sake. Just Chiefs aren't betting on it. So don't. Okay, my only damper for New Year's Eve is don't get too excited. Just take it with a grain of salt and move on, hope for the best. But after that, I will try to be a little bit more optimistic the rest of the show and not be such a Debbie Downer. So Nick is our good friend Nick Jacobs from KSHB 41 is going to be joining us here in a little bit. But I'll just go ahead and dive into the questions. And Chris has one I've been hearing and been talking kind of with the Chiefs about and everything, and some wild speculation. But Chris, one of our long times, do you see the Chiefs playing an international game in 2025? If yes, who will be the opponent? And I mean, this would be a year in which it would be the Chiefs' home game. Now, based on the NFL's rotation, technically it would be too early for the Chiefs to, either be quote unquote required, but it wouldn't be too early for them to volunteer early for a game. The NFL has set it up now so that they want every team to do one of their road games and home games in a rotation. And I believe the rotation was supposed to be like once every 3 to 4 years. With the number of games that the NFL now has, there's an opportunity for that to be a little bit faster. And, I know that the Chiefs want to play internationally. I mean, if anything, the Chiefs are going to raise their hand every year to play internationally. They raised their hand this year. It would have been a road game, but they volunteered and said, hey, anybody wants to play us internationally, we're game for it. Now, that's not going to happen, probably, because the Chiefs are just not going to, have an opponent who wants to give away a Chiefs game to take it internationally. So that was the problem this past season. Even though the Chiefs, would have loved to, and there was a couple of games that they were circling as maybe potentially being chosen for an international game, the reality is that road games right now in this era are going to be hard, because no team wants to give up Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs as a gate. That's just too profitable. So they don't want to take those games overseas, which means the Chiefs are going to play internationally. It's going to have to be their home games. And like I said, under the NFL's, philosophy, the Chiefs would not be required to go in 2025. It would be more likely 27 or 29. But the NFL also relaxed that policy a little bit so that teams can volunteer to go early. And the Chiefs will volunteer. There's no doubt about that. They would love to go and play internationally, so they would gladly volunteer for that game. The question is, will they be chosen? And this is where it gets, because I know that from talking to people in the organization at a lower level, there's places they'd love to go. I think everybody that I've talked to in NFL, I think right now the hot ticket is Barcelona. They everyone wants to go play in Spain, and once the NFL, put more games in Barcelona. The UK and Germany now are a little bit passé, so everybody's kind of over the thrill of it all. So those aren't the most attractive games. Mexico are probably pretty attractive because it's a lucrative game, lucrative market for expansion, but you don't get really hammered by the time change that much. I think, maybe not as much enamored with Brazil because there's a lot of logistics involved and a lot of wild cards with Brazil that make it a little bit difficult than it was this year for, I know the Eagles, and I'm trying to remember who the Eagles played, blanking out who they played in that game in Brazil now in the opening week. But I know there was a lot of logistics that were kind of difficult to jump through. But now, so who could the Chiefs take? I mean, the Chiefs will, like I said, they will gladly raise their hand to go. But even the Chiefs aren't going to give up just any game to go overseas. They've blocked a couple of games. For instance, the year that they went to go play Miami in Germany, they blocked, I believe, the Chicago game, and there was another opponent that they blocked because they were like, no, these are the games that we want to protect. We don't want them because they're big draws. These are teams that, when they come to Kansas City, they bring a lot of fans, a lot of money. So now next year, looking at it, I mean, the Chiefs obviously get their AFC West opponents. I don't think any of those games, for the most part, would go overseas, but it always could. The Texans, Colts, Eagles, Commanders, the winner of the AFC North and the winner of the NFC North will be coming to Kansas City. I doubt that either Detroit or Minnesota would be one of those games because those are, again, another teams that travel pretty well. So I don't think you'd see either one of them. Maybe the Lions. The Vikings are definitely a team I think the Chiefs would protect against. So maybe the Lions might be considered. I don't know if they would put the Eagles on that list. The Commanders might be a possibility. I think they might want to protect the Colts a little bit. I mean, looking at the Chiefs' schedule for next year, I mean, maybe the Lions. I mean, they played the Lions in the UK once upon a time. I mean, things have changed since then. The Lions are a different team. Chiefs are a different team. So might be a little bit different factors. Maybe that's a game that you would like in Kansas City. But I could see that. The Texans I could see as being a possibility. Commanders, those would probably be my three top picks that if you're going to take one of those games and move them out. I mean, at the same time, I think if I'm the Chiefs looking out for my fans a little bit, I wouldn't put the Commanders on that list because I think you need to see Jaden Daniels in Arrowhead. I think that's something that all fans should get to see. The Lions, good team, a lot of great players, but they were here 2 years ago. So I think, that's a game that could go overseas. I wouldn't have a huge problem with. The only thing with the Colts is that they're just, it's a team that can travel pretty well to Kansas City and might. So maybe that would be a game you would protect a little bit. But I do think that there's no doubt the Chiefs would raise their hand. I just don't know if, and I think they will. It's just whether or not the opponent is going to line up. So, Jesus, what is the alcohol preference today? I'm not going to lie, Jesus, I am not a big alcohol drinker. I don't like beer at all. I probably won't have any alcohol today since I'm not planning on going out or anything. If I were, I'm pretty much strictly a margarita guy. I will. There's occasionally vodka gets involved, but I'm not a huge drinker. So I might have something to drink like once or twice a year. I'm not a big guy on that. So, but if I'm out with my friends going somewhere and there are fruity margaritas involved, you can be sure I'll probably partaking of that. Especially the stranger the better. I hate pomegranate. I don't like that at all. But I had a pomegranate margarita once. It was incredible. So I'll try almost anything in a margarita as long as I'm not allergic to it. Which is the good thing is that most of the things I'm allergic to are nuts, and so I don't think you're going to have like a walnut margarita. I've never come across that, so I think I'm fine. Matt Francis, another one of our long times. Good to see you, Matt. Not sure if you saw my question the other day, but I was wondering how you all decide the pecking order in the podium room. Oh, you know what? I did see this, Matt, and it was the one I was trying to get to at the end, and then I lost track of where it was. So I'm glad you brought it back up again. Thanks for all the great insights, and Happy New Year to all. Happy New Year to you as well. You know what? We really don't decide the pecking order in the podium room. There is a kind of a default, if you will. That's mostly obeyed. Sometimes it doesn't, but pretty much everybody, if there's so-called deans of the press corps, who based on seniority have been around the most and everything. So if Adam Teicher's in the room, almost everybody will defer to Adam for the first question. If Adam is not in the room or Adam just doesn't speak up for the first question, kind of gets up in the air. Now, that's different if there is someone who's coming to the podium and there is a hot story of the day, a big question. then that might, change. For instance, I mean, if Andy Reid doesn't address it in his opening remarks on Wednesday, first question everybody's going to want to ask is, hey, what's your plan for the starters this week? Who's going to play? Who's not going to play? So if Andy doesn't address that in his opening remarks, it's going to be the first question. And anybody could ask that. It might be Adam, could be somebody else. I'm intrigued to bring our good friend Nick in here too, because Nick, I think, will have some interesting insight to kind of this
Greetings,
question.
Matt.
Nick, how are you?
Good. I was going to wear my top hat, but it blends in too much.
You are much more festive than I do, because I have no
Try it again,
festive...
but it's going to blend. Gonna blend. Yep. See, it blends.
We can briefly see Happy New Year though.
Yeah. Well, hope you enjoyed it.
Love the backdrop. Love the tuxedo.
Tuxedo T-shirt. I'm here for business, sir.
That is much fancier than anything that I have. So
well, you know what, Matt? The day is still young. Don't worry. 2025 is not here yet. Okay, you can make a last impression.
I think the fanciest thing I might have might be my T-shirt that says "Back by popular demand," given to me by my predecessor Herbie Teope.
Well, you're welcome to wear it at Chiefs Media tomorrow or Thursday.
I was answering Matt's question here about how we decide the pecking order in the podium room, and I mean, we really don't decide anything. It's a free for all. Oh, and I accidentally got rid of Nick there for a
Welcome
second.
back.
I just learned if I hit the space bar, Nick disappears.
Oh boy! That's how I know I'm in timeout.
So no more hitting the space bar.
All right, Matt. Well, the more you know.
The more you know.
Like that NBC thing. Yeah. In terms of, all right, I'll do this twofold just in case.
Go for it.
First fold would be we don't decide which players come up, or which order, coordinator or whoever comes up on Wednesdays like tomorrow. It's going to be Andy Reid, typically your quarterback, and then media can request players, and the Chiefs Bureau will do their best to be able to get them up there, but may have conflicts, may have something going on. So, that's sometimes a journey, but we find out, I'll find out tomorrow who specifically is in there, and I'll text back my station to let them know, and then they can tease whatever they need to for people that are following on our KSHB 41 alerts. In terms of people asking questions, as Matt said earlier, we defer to Teicher because Teicher's been doing that since the early to mid 90s on the beat. So he's earned that right from as much of the good and bad football that Teicher has seen during that time. He deserves to be able
spot. To like Helen Thomas and the White House press corps. Adam Teicher has earned that beat.
No, he's earned the opportunity to be able to always ask the first question, having been doing it that long. And then, like you said, from there it just depends. So when respectful media are there, Adam gets the first question, and those that think they're better than that, they ask in advance. So. I rarely have ever asked the first question because I don't need to. I don't need that. And some of the questions I ask really deserve to be back end questions, like asking Andy about mac and cheese. That's an end of the press conference question. Let's get the serious football stuff out of the way, then we can ask about mac and cheese. And between Brett Veach inviting me up on that Zoom to the draft room unofficially, so when he said you'd have to come up here and see it, between that and Andy talking about we might want to open up a restaurant someday for mac and cheese, I mean, I have a lot of opportunities on the table here that, we'll see if I ever get to collect on this.
I know every once in a while, Andy does kind of put out some of those invitations that you don't know if they, if you followed up on them, if anything would happen. I mean, I remember once he told Cody Tappan answering a question, about how, he gets in, to work at 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and, you should come in and see it one day. And Cody was like, I wonder if I should just show up at 6 o'clock in the morning one day and say, hey, coach, I'm here. Can I see how it all works?
I feel like security would be like, hey, maybe don't do that. Security would encourage him from hanging out there.
Yeah, I think it was it was, what's the word I'm looking for? Hello, I'm Matt Derrick. I'm a professional writer, and I can't remember words.
It's all right, man. It'll be a new year, new you. Just a couple hours.
There you go. Get a little bit more sleep, and we'll be fine. You know what? I was over at Locked On Chiefs and changed my microphone. still in the same application.
There you go.
The microphone did not switch over. So
There
thank
you
you.
go.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, I mean, I will occasionally ask questions. First one, if it's like a player that I've requested.
Yeah.
I very rarely ask the first question to Andy or Patrick because I defer that to the Teicher since he's usually in the room for those.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm asking a question first, it's generally one of three things, if not ticking all three boxes. It's one, player I requested. It's two, something I am writing about that I am reporting about that I absolutely need an answer to, that it's not just like optional. It's like, I definitely need this for this story. Or three, it's a question that, important, that just needs to be the first question asked, period. If it's a hot topic, if something has happened, there's developing news, breaking news, anything of that sort, it needs to be the first question. And if the Teicher's not there, I'll be the first one to ask it. That's not a problem. But like I said, I have to tick at least one, if not all three of those boxes for me to be the first one to ask a question. And then after that, it really is a free for all. I mean, it's really just who speaks first and who gets heard first, who the player looks at, who talks the longest in answering their question. And sometimes there's a little bit of deference there too. I mean, if I'm asking the same question and I hear someone who's been on the beat longer than me asking a question, I'll defer to them. So if I'm asking the question at the same time and Vahe Gregorian or Blair Kirchhoff, I hear their voice asking at the same time, I'll usually defer to them because they've been on the beat longer than I have. If somebody who's been on the beat less than I have, and I got a question I'm really trying to get in and ask, I got to talk over people because that's sometimes what you got to do in this biz, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because we are not a place where they until you get to the end of the press conferences that they call on people, and then it does get into how do you choose the pecking order? Well, you make eye contact with the person in PR who's in charge of the room and just make sure they know you have a question, so you get called on at the end.
Yep. That's my practice. That's why you normally hear me in one of the last three questions.
Going over to the super chats. Thank you very much, Brother Rick. Truly appreciate that. Got a question about number 92, Nick. We're getting very, very specific now. This is like how coaches would ask questions and answer questions.
I haven't watched much of Marlon. I know he had 13 snaps against the Steelers, but I haven't gotten through all that tape. Had a lot of holiday family events going on, so I haven't. Yeah, that was
his first game of the year. So that was his first opportunity, and I assume he's going to get some more playing time this week. Heck, I mean, he could start this week, depending on how many guys are active. If the Chiefs really go backups and everything like that, I would assume that Marlon Tuipulotu would get a lot of snaps. I can't really say I've got a lot of assessment either because I haven't had a chance to really watch his snaps specifically from the Christmas Day game. So, was his first time active, but I can't. We're going to get to see more of him, Brother Rick, and I promise you, hey, next week we can give you a better answer to that. I can give you a better answer for sure because I'll watch some of his snaps and see. This is just this first time that we got a chance to really see any of him this year.
I'll be honest, holidays and family time took priority for me this year.
I wish we could give you a better answer there, Rick, but we'll next week for sure. We'll give you a better answer.
We won't forget it, and you won't have to pay for it either.
That's right.
Because you already did.
You already did. We owe you a free one, Brother Rick.
Boom.
Jesus also with a super chat. Thank you very much. And like with both those guys, you move to the front of the line if you ever want to do a super chat or have a question of any sort like that. Just feel free. If you guys see the Chiefs using the franchise tag on next season, have a safe and happy New Year. Good question. I mean, and the answer, honestly, might be nobody.
Yeah, I mean, Trey Smith's the only one that I would use it if you're not able to get something done. Otherwise, I personally wouldn't use it because you're giving them top 5 money. Trey Smith's worthy of top 5 money. Nick Bolton, I would not be doing a tag on to give top 5 money to personally.
Yeah, and I talked with Brett Veach back even in training camp about this very topic because that's one of the challenges that the Chiefs are going to have in this year's free agent class is that you look at the top players that the Chiefs have and what positions that they are, and they are not what I would call franchise tag friendly positions. Because you know what, if you franchise tag to Chris Jones, and you're going to pay him like one of the highest paid defensive linemen in the league. Well, that's what he's being paid like right now. So you are prepared to do that. Nick Molden's a middle linebacker. So if you're going to pay him like the highest paid middle linebacker in the league, you'd be paying him in the high teens. But his franchise tag is based on the linebacker position, which means that his franchise tag is essentially determined by the 5 highest edge rushers in the league who play outside linebacker. So that tag number is probably going to be $10 million more easily than what Nick Bolton would be making on an annual basis. Maybe even more. That tag might end up being close to $30 million. Trey Smith is the same thing. It's an offensive line tag. So you're not going to be paying Trey Smith, a tag based on the top paying guard. You're going to pay him a franchise tag based on the 5 highest paid left tackles in the league. That's how that franchise tag is determined, because it's just for offensive line. So, would the Chiefs end up using a franchise tag in any one of those positions? Probably not. And then, it's just, do they have anybody else who would end up being in that position? You can always use the franchise tag for leverage and, just extending the deadline to get something done. But at the same time, that's not necessarily a number that the Chiefs want to pay. Would not be in their budget to necessarily pay anybody, even on a 1-year basis. If they wanted to keep, Trey Smith for another year, they'd love to. Do they want to pay him $35 million? That's not really part of the plan. So we'll see what happens. But I think there's a decent chance, Jesus, that the Chiefs don't use the franchise tag on anybody. It's distinctly possible. We'll see what happens. I promised, before you got here, Nick, I did say that I was going to try it, because you said that one of the prerequisites for doing this today on the holiday eve and all, it was that it had to be a lightning round edition completely. So far, I'm striking out on that.
Matt, I never believed lightning round with you. You can tell me, but I'll never.
I know you never believed me. Brandon has a question that I think it's probably going to come up a lot tonight, so we'll just go ahead and meet it on. How many players do you rest this week, Nick?
As many as possible. So the list of must rest. We'll just do it this way. The list of must rest: Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones. Do not see the field, and if you don't want to fly either, don't do that. But they'll fly because their team, they want to be there and support their teammates. They're not going to do that. So they'll be there for that. They'll be part of everything, support system and everything. Kareem Hunt, I personally would not play. Would not be playing him if I'm in their shoes. Justin Reid, I would not play either. That's just me personally. Juwan Taylor, I would not play. So at that point, I think I'm at 6. And then from there, there's guys I wouldn't start, and they would be emergency people. So the entire starting offensive line would be emergency, minus DJ Humphreys. If I'm in the Chiefs' shoes, I play DJ Humphreys because he needs to get those reps before playoffs. And if he were to get hurt in the Broncos game, then I'm personally going with Joe Thuney after that and Kelley Endo left guard. But you got to find – DJ Humphreys needs the snaps. He needs the reps. He needs it. Like, he's one of those guys I personally would not be sitting just for the heck of it. Like, because you already know the backup plan you can go to. So I wouldn't. And I'm not against them playing Kelley Endo if they elected to do that, but I do want to see Hunter Norzad and I do want to see Hansen getting reps out there and getting work out there. And if they want to either put Kingsley or Wanye at guard and get them work there, I am not against that either. But there needs to be other opportunities with guys getting other snaps if they do need to fill in a role during the playoffs, that they have some real-time game reps to be able to work with. And the offensive line is the number one key where you got to make that happen. Hollywood Brown and Xavier, I personally wouldn't be playing, but if they play, they play. DeAndre Hopkins, I would let the knee injury he had early in August when he's with the Titans, I wouldn't even take the chance. It might be completely healed up, but because of age, I would let that guy rest, plain and simple. Along with defensive line, I think Emmanuel needs to get snaps. He's very important to the defensive line, but I think working his way back, I think giving him half the snaps he'd normally get in a game, I'm all for it. Is that a risk you potentially take from an injury perspective? You bet. But, that's what he's going to need to be able to get into the playoff form that he wants to and that the Chiefs want him to. So those are the primary spots. And if Brian Cook didn't play, I wouldn't be upset about it. Just to give him and that ankle a week's rest and see if that can kind of help him gain a little bit more of that explosiveness whenever he has to change directions and accelerate. And if that can help him out, then I'm all for that. And McDuffie, I wouldn't be playing much of it all, plain and simple. Now, does that take away half the team at this point? Probably so. But that's why you make guys dress and you leave them as emergencies. But yeah, there's specific people that you're not even bringing their uniform, their shoulder pads, and their helmet, and their names are Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones, plain and simple.
Yeah, and and taking it back, the look at last year in the same situation, and I think pretty analogous, situation and everything.
A what situation?
Analogous. See, that time I actually remembered a word, and I think I pronounced it correctly. So.
Look at you out there flexing, you wordsmith.
There you go. The 7 inactives last year were Rashee Rice, Patrick Mahomes, Kadarius Toney, L'Jarius Sneed, Mike Dana, Donovan Smith, and Travis Kelce. Most of those same are going to be the same. I'd probably put Hollywood in place of Rashee Rice. I think I'm going to definitely have Joe Thuney in that situation. I don't think he needs to play. There's a handful of others you could swap out, because in addition to those, there were 8 other players who didn't play. One of them was Chris Oladokun, who was elevated from the practice squad, just didn't get in because Blaine Gabbert played the whole game. But there were 7 other players who did not play. They were active but did not play. That was Pacheco, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Justin Reid, Trent McDuffie, Nick Bolton, Willie Gay, George Karlaftis. Probably swap out maybe Marquez Valdez-Scantling for DeAndre Hopkins, maybe Willie Gay for Drew Tranquill. You might have a very solid list there about who would not and should not play this week and would maybe be active but not play. I completely forgot this, Nick. I just blocked it out of my memory. It comes back to me now that I see it. But Joe Thuney started at left tackle last year in that final game in Week 18 against the Chargers. Mm-hmm. Creed Humphrey started at left guard. Mm-hmm. Nick Allegretti was at center.
Yep.
And those guys played most of the first half before the subs started coming in. Mm-hmm. But honestly, the Chiefs, with as many offensive linemen as they've got right now, they got 3 tackles. So between Ethan Driscoll, Wanye Morris, and Kingsley Suamataia, they don't need to really have anybody. I'm with you. I want to see DJ Humphries probably play at least a half. See what he's got, see if he's healthy enough, see if he can move around, and if you feel like you can trust him going into the postseason. But I don't need to see Joe Thuney. I don't need to see Creed Humphrey. I don't need to see Trey Smith. I would love to see, maybe Mike Kelley Endo get some snaps at center if that's what you're thinking. I would love to see Hunter Nerzad and CJ Hansen get as many snaps as possible. That's to me what this is for. So I'm probably even answering it from a different perspective, Brandon. I can rattle off real quickly the starters that I want to rest, but if I just start talking about the players I want to see, that's a completely different group. And Michael Pirine started at running back last year, Nick, and I think he might have even been a practice squad elevation that week with Oladokun. I'd have to go back and double check, but I feel like he was a practice squad elevation. It might be the same thing this year. I frankly would not want Hunt, Pacheco, or Pirine playing. I'd say Carson Steele and Keontae Ingram, it's your week, boys. Go get it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for the Chiefs in terms of practice squad elevations because you like to elevate the whole team this week.
You'd love to, but you only get 2.
Let them play. Something else the NFL should look into. Find a couple weeks, just elevate the whole practice squad. Just let them be a part of that journey. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. It's not going to be an easy decision for the Chiefs to have to figure out.
I love that Pano is wishing us a happy new year from Hawaii. That is awesome, Pano.
Pano, you forgot the K in my name, sir. Okay, how dare you disrespect my madre and padre? Okay, you're better than that. I know you are.
I still love you, Pano. Love you tuning in from Hawaii. That is fantastic.
At least they didn't call me a different name. I'll take that.
And it's not a question, but anytime I get to bring Julia Gulia up, I appreciate it. So happy New Year's to you as well, and everybody in Chiefs Kingdom. You are correct. Yeah, Justin. Andy Reid said told us yesterday he wanted to tell the team what he's doing. So before he told us, that does suggest that he had something to tell the team, Nick, because I don't think that his plan would be, tell you what, guys, I'm going to tell the team first. And what I'm telling the team is, all the starters are playing this week. I don't think that was his plan, but I could be wrong.
Hey, I mean, look,
But you are correct, Justin. That Andy hasn't told us anything yet.
No.
Pado's question: can Patrick restructure some of his money so we can get Trey back next season? Oh yeah, I mean Patrick can restructure money every single year. I mean, and he doesn't have to do anything. The Chiefs just have an option in his contract where they can restructure his money and move that signing bonus. And you're probably ahead of me, Nick, about looking at what his signing bonus is next, or his roster bonus is for next year.
So in 2025, his roster bonus is $32.3 million. So you'd have to divide that over the next, I can't remember, it's 5 or 6 years of the contract. I think five you could do total. So take that, divide that by 5, and then they can move that to down the road. And I can't remember if that converts into signing bonus, or I think it converts into signing bonus.
I mean, they call it a restructure bonus, so it kind of fits into a different category, but it works the exact same way, which is just that gets converted into a signing bonus, so he gets the check that day for that much money, but you only count 1/5 of it for each of the next 5 years. So yeah, if he converted that,
so 6.475, or excuse me, 6.47 per year.
Yeah, and to my knowledge, I don't think that the Chiefs have ever converted all of his roster bonus into a signing bonus. They've always just done a portion of it, so there would probably be some of it that would just go ahead and take the hit for 2025. His base salary next year is $16.65 million. That can also be restructured and changed. He has never, by the way, ever had a base salary that high. His highest base salary has been $9.85 million. That was in 24. So that's also money that you can convert technically into a signing bonus and restructure if you want to, and spread it out over the next 5 years the same way. His cap hits, I mean, they're high over the next few years, because 25 is really the last year he's got that big roster bonus. Excuse me, I guess I'm looking at the wrong column there. Still has big roster bonuses, but it gets moved into salary a lot more in the 26 and 27. It gets a little goofy, but I mean, it all works the same. Is it the sense that the Chiefs can move that money into to a roster bonus and move it around? So yeah, I mean, could they conceivably, free up $30 million in salary cap space just restructuring Mahomes? Yeah, they could. Now, is that enough to keep Trey Smith? That gets a little bit tougher, because you are starting to run out of money across the board. I mean, you can restructure some other guys too. I mean, everybody's got a little bit of money that some of their veterans have some money you can restructure, but you have to pay the piper at some point, Nick.
Lightning round.
Quentin, any shot we see Kingsley, Cross, Norzad, and Driscoll play most of the snaps on Sunday? I mean, I hope we see a lot of snaps from all 4 of those guys.
Just answer that question previous 1 or 2 ago. So I know Quentin. It's not Quentin.
I answered this before you got here, Nick, so I'll ask you for a quick answer. Want to play internationally next year?
Personally, no, but I know NFL is going to try to force them in Germany, because that's what they do. They want those Chiefs in Germany to open up that audience and make that money on there.
Well, the Chiefs want to play in Germany, because I mean it's part of their business plan. It's an interesting question to me would be if the NFL asked the Chiefs to play somewhere else.
I think it would just depend on where they feel like Mahomes or Kelsey have strong marketing.
Kind of with this, do you think the Chiefs will play on Thanksgiving next year?
That is a fear of mine, that the Chiefs will be playing on Thanksgiving Day against the Cowboys, because they will be in Dallas. But the kicker of it is, Chiefs Cowboys will always be that's going to be ratings gold, no matter what day they play it. So they don't necessarily have to put that on Thanksgiving. They can honestly put any of the other Cowboys games on there, and they would do just as well of a number.
I mean, if the Cowboys have a winning record next season, there's a reasonable chance that would be the highest rated NFL game of the season, no matter when it's played. You could play that at 3 a.m. in Alaska, and it would be the highest rated game in the NFL.
Maybe.
Not that I'm encouraging the NFL to do that.
I mean, at the end of the day, Mike McCarthy's still hypothetically, it may still be the coach there. If he's still the coach there, we'll see. No, they're going to have to worry about winning and Mike McCarthy. Those don't seem to go together anymore.
Yeah, Brian, I like the way you think. Hit the like button if you haven't already before. So truly do appreciate that. KC Harold, Matt, last year we had the Jones $1 million sack watch. Anybody have incentive bonuses for this game? I'm not sure that I've seen anybody, Nick. Is there anyone that's popped up on your radar that's got some incentive bonuses in this game this week that might be on the chase?
No, otherwise their agent would have already leaked it out nationally and put pressure throughout the week on their client to be able to reach that. I'm sorry, did I say the quiet part out loud?
You said the quiet part out loud, Nick. So. I was just thinking one thing, because the tracker of all of that nationally does a great job with his Joel Corey. Every year he does the list of everybody hitting in the week 18 that's got their list of bonuses and incentives, and I haven't seen his list yet, so maybe it's just that there aren't any Chiefs on there. I can't think of anybody. There's nothing that stands out as dramatic as that Chris Jones $1 million bonus watch was last year.
See, Matt, you get some questions at 414, I think, unless you already answered them.
At 314?
No, 414.
Oh, 414? I was going to say 414.
You may have already answered them. I'm not sure.
You know what? I missed Pano's question. That's probably the one you were thinking about. His second question. Paul Romo. I can't.
Paul Romo.
Paul Romo.
He's
I'm sorry
from
about
the famous Romo family.
Around the funny thing is, I saw this and I really wanted to get to it, and then apparently I skipped over it. And
it's all right, Matt.
I skipped over a bunch of questions there, folks. Sorry, I can't believe I did that.
I guided you back there.
Glad you're here to look out for me, Nick. Being a fan since the '80s and watching older YouTube games, does it feel like Arrowhead was louder than the Marty Carl era? I know you attend every game, so a good perspective is appreciated. And I wish I had been at games back in the day, but I mean, I do think it was louder back then, Nick. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I think it was.
Yeah, it was, and they had a little bit more seating back then, because I think weren't they at 80,000? Now they're at 70.
Yeah, there were more people.
There were more seats. There were more seats back then, and just a little bit different vibe back then. But don't get me wrong, 2013 when I was standing on the field during a game shooting it against the Giants, it was still very loud. I could feel the ground shake, and like when Andy Reid says that, he's not exaggerating. Like you do feel the ground shake when you're on the field. And that was just the Giants game against Eli Manning back then. That wasn't like, a big time Sunday night football game. That was a noon game on a Sunday.
I mean, I don't know what would have to happen for an official to do like they did during a Chiefs Broncos game back then.
Matt, you want to spacebar me real quick? Spacebar.
Spacebar. Well, that time I hit spacebar and it didn't work. So, well, I will spacebar you that way, Nick. So, but Paul, I mean, I don't know what it would take, in this day and age for an official to tell the crowd that it has to quiet down before they're going to allow the snap play to take place, or that that there's the spacebar work to bring you back. I mean, Nick, can you imagine an official in this day and age telling the crowd that it has to quiet down, or they're going to call they're going to call delay a game on the offense?
I mean, they can try it. They can try it. I don't know if it's going to work out in their favor.
I mean, and to your point, yes, there was a higher capacity, so there were more people in the stadium back then. It was also more enclosed, because when they did the remodeling, I mean, I know that was a concern, was that maybe it just wasn't going to be as loud, and I don't think it is as loud since the remodel, because it is a little bit more open in places, and I think and that changed a lot of things in that stadium. I mean, it changed kind of the wind patterns, and I think it did change the sound a little bit. I've heard a weird thing about, different types of granite and rock and how it conducts sound and everything. And I don't know.
Uh-oh, you got another $5 question.
I know. We got another super chat here from Dez, a longtime member of ours. Member from like almost the very beginning, Dez. Truly appreciate you. Of the partial options, who do you think matches up best against KC in the divisional round, and who would be the toughest? I think they win regardless. Hey, I'm kind of of the same philosophy. I mean, I think the Chiefs will win in the divisional round no matter whom they face. But I mean, I get anybody being scared of the Bengals making the playoffs because the Bengals are the Bengals, but I just don't think that this Bengals team is the same. I just don't have much of a defense. I think the Chiefs have seen every trick that the Bengals have. Not that they couldn't Joe Burrow can't just go back and throw the ball to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and see what happens, because he could probably put 45 points on the board that way. Just not sure he can do it against Steve Spagnuolo. But I mean, I think the one team that would be the toughest for the Chiefs to face in the divisional round, for me, my money would be the Chargers. I think that's the team because that means that whomever you face has gone to one. They've gone to a tough team and won. They've either gone to Buffalo or they've gone to Baltimore, most likely, and won a game. I mean, it could be the 5 seed, and there's a scenario obviously where the Ravens are the 5 seed, and that's who you face coming to Kansas City. I don't think that's going to happen, but there's a scenario where it could happen. So I guess technically that would be the worst game. I don't think you want to see as a 5th seeded Ravens team coming to Arrowhead, but a Chargers team that has just gone to Baltimore and won and now coming to Arrowhead, I don't think would be very attractive.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna do it by power ranking thing.
Go for it.
So with Denver, Bo Nix showed me that the limelight's a little too big for him after some of the decisions he made there late in the game against the Bengals last week. They cost the Broncos a win. He made a lot of poor decisions there in the final 4 minutes of that fourth quarter, and then pretty much in all of overtime. So with him, there's a genuine chance that they don't beat the Chiefs with with some of the other players going up against them. Like there's a possibility with that if Bo Nix gets rattled in some of the pressure cooker situations that's back against the wall. Chargers, now they got J.K. Dobbins back. They're going to be a little bit tougher, and they got a little bit of their identity back. Ladd McConkey staying healthy will be key. And long term, once the Chargers get some better receivers in 2025 and 2026, and then whenever they replace that front four along the defensive line and get younger, faster there, then the Chargers are really going to give the Chiefs a run for their money in the AFC West. But I'm really intrigued to see what the Chargers can do against the Baltimore Ravens in Week 1. The way things are situated right now with the Texans and Steelers, I feel like the Steelers have a more physical team than the Texans do, and I think they'll overwhelm C.J. Stroud. The question will be how that team, if they're on the same page with Russell Wilson, if that's still working there, if there's still some issues happening on defense and in that locker room that I think are creating some of their chemistry problems based on how they talk in press conferences and some of the hints that they drop and subliminal messages that they drop from time to time that have me wondering about a certain player on the defense that's only been there 1 year and a certain wide receiver that Chiefs fans are really enamored with that decides when he does and doesn't want to run his routes. So there's 3 guys on that team that I think for Pittsburgh that I don't – if they fall apart, it's because of some of the chemistry in the locker room. But the Texans are a team I think they can rally together with and be able to potentially come to Kansas City. The Texans, if they end up in Kansas City, that Tank Dell thing really just wrecked them. But also, they don't really have that great of a D-line to begin with. And the Texans just have a lot of roster building to do. And they need to be in this playoff situation and kind of experience it and everything. But I felt like they were a better team last year than they are this year headed into the playoffs. And then, look, Baltimore's going to be a tough team no matter who they're going against. Buffalo is going to be a tough team on offense. On defense, I think if a team stays committed in the run and runs against their nickel defense, I think they have a good chance of a team being able to take care of them. Bengals have a awful defense this year, a very old defense, slower defense this year, but a very good passing game. Brown being injured is going to be a problem for him. O-line can be a problem for him. And then if the Dolphins get in, I mean, they get in, but they're not going to be around very long. That's a poorly constructed team, and Mike McDaniel doesn't have a lot of discipline for that football team.
Yeah, I mean, we're spending a lot of time thinking about, okay, well, what happens if it's the Chargers or the Bengals or the Broncos or the Dolphins that come to Kansas City in the divisional round? I mean, most likely scenario, though, is it's going to be the Texans or the Steelers. I mean, there's obviously a scenarios where it could be some different teams, but that's the most likely 4 versus 5 team. Buffalo and the Ravens, I think, are going to hold course at home no matter whom they play. So, I mean, if it's the Texans or the Steelers, you're feeling pretty good if you're the Chiefs, especially if it's the Steelers, because you just took them behind the woodshed, and I don't see that changing the second time around. And the Texans, I mean, could it be motivation that they lost Tank Dell here and they want to win one for him? Very well, but that offense is not the same without him. And I don't think that they're going to be as effective against the Chiefs the second time around without him. So I mean, and I don't think that rust is going to be a factor for the Chiefs. So I just don't think that's much of a worry. I mean, I think the Chiefs are going to be heavily favored against whomever they see in the divisional round, and I don't think the divisional round is going to be much of a problem. The AFC Championship game might be more of a problem, but
yeah, we'll see how everything shakes out this week, and then we can reevaluate from there.
Chris, is there a metric showing if Mahomes has more time in the pocket since Tooney moved to left tackle? Seems like it, but it's just an eye test. And I mean, I haven't seen anything specifically, Nick. I mean, obviously we got some of the pressure numbers, which, I mean, they've been going down. I think there was the most pressures that Tooney gave up in his first start, and I think they've been going down since then. But at the same time, Mahomes' time to throw has been going down. He's just getting rid of the football quicker. I mean, that's the one metric for sure that stands out to me.
Yeah, Tooney, let's see, 15 was his first week. So time to throw, they were doing 2.99 during that portion. So 2.99 was his average time in week 15. Week 16, time to throw, they dropped down to 2.5. And then last week, time to throw went to 2.34, which reiterates what you were already saying. So there's that.
And I mean, in his time to throw, and remember, I mean, that's not how much time he has in the pocket. That's just how quickly he gets rid of the football. These last 2 weeks have been Mahomes' quickest time to throw in more than 3 years. I mean, you got to go back to, I think, was it week 4 in 2021 was the last time that he had a time to throw that low. And once again, that's not how much time that his offensive line's giving him. It's just how quickly he decides to get rid of the football. I mean, I'm with Chris. I mean, I feel like from the eye test that he's had more time to throw, but he's making quicker and better decisions now. And whether that's just because he's just not worrying about what's going on behind him. And because I have felt like my quick Cliff Notes version here, Nick, I have felt like most of the season that Patrick Mahomes has been playing with one eye downfield and one eye on his left tackle spot. And with Joe Tooney, it feels like he's not keeping an eye on what's going on behind him. He's just keeping two eyes downfield. And when he does that, and he can see the whole field and do it more quickly, he gets rid of the ball more quickly. Am I crazy?
No, you're not. Nailed it. In terms of numbers, so week 15, he was pressured 17 times in that game. Based on percentage dropbacks, so it's 42.5% of the time. That was a little bit more than the week before, but it's also Myles Garrett. Then in week 16 against the Texans, 16 quarterback pressures overall. In terms of percentage of the time, that was 35.6% of the time. Again, that's a drop. Against the Steelers, he was only pressured 7 times, and that was a 17.9 percentage in terms of his dropbacks that he had in that game. So they steadily dropped each and every week, which is a good thing. And those are your numbers. Those are your real times next gen stat numbers.
There you go. I like it. Thank you for the numbers, Nick.
That's what I'm here for, Matt. For that question in that moment.
From Chris, Saquon Barkley setting the record for rushing yards in the season may be the difference one day between being elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and being rejected. Would you play him in week 18?
Yes.
I mean, I would.
Give him and the O-line the opportunity to break that. Let them have that lifetime accomplishment, and then go from there. But we'll find out what they do. But I mean, that's must-see TV. I'm going to be trying to watch it if it happens.
Yeah, I would leave it up to him. I mean, I'd go to Saquon and say, you want to go for it? You want to get it? If you want to, it's all yours. We're behind you.
Based on his Sunday Night Football response when they did a Zoom chat with him, he wants that. And then they talked to Eric Dickerson afterwards. And
the more Eric Dickerson is talking, the more he is motivating Saquon to go get it. So
it was funny. I will say, I will give Eric Dickerson this, like, whenever Maria asked him, when she asked him about, trying to break the record and everything, and the comment he made is, records are meant to, or somebody said records are meant to be broken. He's like, yeah, that's spoken like somebody that doesn't have a record. Not wrong. I totally get it.
I mean, I hate to sound like an old timer and asterisks and everything, but I mean, I will. It will mean differently to me. I mean, I'll think of it as a 16 game record and a 17 game record in my mind. I mean, he's still going to have the record holder, but I still think what Eric Dickerson was more impressive, if just even slightly more impressive. But it's nothing to the way I feel, Nick, about Ashton Jonte and getting the rushing record of Barry Sanders, because one, as Mick Schaefer pointed out earlier on Twitter, Barry Sanders' record, the NCAA still doesn't recognize bowl games from that era as counting in the records. Mm-hmm. So Barry Sanders' record was in 11 games, Nick. Mm-hmm. This is going to be what, game 14 or 15? Mm-hmm. For Jonte going toward the record? No. If you're going to break Barry Sanders' record, you got to do it. If you're not doing it in at least 12 games, it doesn't count. But you really need to do it in 11, because that's what Barry did it in. If it takes you 3 or 4 more games to get to Barry Sanders' record, you did not break Barry Sanders' record. Okay. That's all I'm saying. Am I wrong?
Well, I mean, like, I'm not really worried about Barry's record. But I mean, like I talked about on here before, there's different eras of it. Like OJ Simpson, I think, did it in 14 games, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So you have the 14 game era with that one. Then you have the 16 game era with Eric, and then now you're going to have the 17 game era potentially with Barkley. And I mean, in terms of running backs that have gotten over 2,000, it's OJ Simpson, Barkley, Chris Johnson, Terrell Davis, Derrick Henry, Barry Sanders, Jamal Lewis, Adrian Peterson, and Eric Dickerson. So, I mean, it's a huge accomplishment. And of those guys, I think you got 1, 2, 3, 4 in the Hall of Fame, if I'm counting my numbers right now. So, like, yes, it helps you potentially get into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, I think Saquon's going in. If he gets the record, I mean, for sure, he's going to the Hall of Fame. He's probably borderline right now. But here's one other thing that I have not heard anybody talk about, Nick, but is relevant to the 16 versus 17 game schedule. We're talking about Saquon's record. Nobody's talking about the fact that the Chiefs could be the second team in NFL history to win 16 games. Mm-hmm. Only one other team has ever done. Chiefs will be the second.
No.
Done a 17 game schedule though, so it's not undefeated. So I feel like that, we're kind of, everybody's kind of treating Saquon and Eric Dickerson, if he gets the record, is kind of more or less being equal. But the Patriots winning 16 games in a 16 game schedule and the Chiefs winning 16 games in a 17 game schedule are like Mars and Venus. I mean, they're just millions of miles apart in people's mind. Am I wrong? I love it when I ask you if I'm wrong, Nick.
I personally haven't given it a ton of thought, and I'm trying to see. Okay, so Barkley's 65th all time in rushing yards. So I mean, this helps his case, but there's a lot of people that he's gonna need to
climb over.
Well, he's got to get the magic number. It looks like is once you get to about 11,000 yards rushing in your career, then most of those guys are in the Hall of Fame at that point. Because if you're looking at guys that are over 11,300 in terms of in the Hall of Fame, it looks like John Riggins, Thurman Thomas, Frank Harris, Marcus Allen, Edgerrin James, Marshall Faulk, Jim Brown, Tony Dorsett, Eric Dickerson, Jerome Bettis, LT, LaDainian Tomlinson, Curtis Martin, Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, and Emmitt Smith. 2 guys that aren't in yet, but I don't think they have enough distance yet in terms of time, is Adrian Peterson and Frank Gore. So, and then Fred Taylor's at 11,600, so he's got a little bit. Steven Jackson still got it. And then Derrick Henry's still active right now, and Derrick Henry's at 11,285. So once you get to that 11,000 range, that's where you've got yourself a good possibility. But so Saquon's going to need – he's at 7,216 right now. He's going to need probably to get to that benchmark, and then having the 2,000 on your resume helps.
Des with more super chats here and some great points. One, if the Chargers win and the Steelers lose, the Chargers get the 5th seed. That is correct. So there's a scenario where the Chargers do end up as the 5 seed. And that, I mean, Chargers versus Texans, I'm taking the Chargers in that one.
Yeah, Chargers beat the Texans comfortably in that one.
The Steelers against the Ravens, I would take. I mean, it would be rematch, second week in a row. I mean, I'd still think the Ravens win that one.
The Ravens win that. They still go to Buffalo. The Chiefs are either taking on the Chargers, or if the 7th seed upsets Buffalo.
Yeah, and I mean, if that in that scenario, I do think that it's obviously, I think Chargers would be the ones coming to Kansas City. That would be the most likely scenario to me.
Yep.
So that is an excellent point, and a good point here from Des too. But Barkley would have less carries than Dickerson, but would Andy let one of his players go for the record in this situation? I think he would, because I mean, he let Kareem go for the rushing title, which was a much less significant situation.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I feel like Reid would probably, but I think Reid might do the same thing. I mean, he might just leave it up to Saquon.
Yeah, I think Andy would ask each player involved in that process and then go from there.
Yeah, I do think he probably would let the team decide. And if it was like, hey, just go out there and get the record and then you're out, that would be, I think, the way he would handle it.
All right, I think we're what, 16 now?
Great question, Des. I appreciate those points, man. Yes, because I think X'd up
Pano's your next one on 416. And is also a part of our official lightning round. Trying to do for the past 45 minutes, and I've gotten through 5 or 6 questions.
All right. That means that we need a graphic of some sort.
You can put a graphic, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Of course it matters. I even thought we had a graphic ready for this, but I guess we don't.
You used to, but it didn't matter.
No. Well, it does matter.
No, it doesn't.
I need a clock is what I really need.
Yes, so like if you could work on that, that would be amazing. You have like a countdown clock, like a shot clock.
I at least have that. There we go.
It's like,
I don't know if I can have comments on that up at the same time, but we're going to find out, and we're going to try.
I doubt
because we're going to go back to
416, Pana.
Yes, we need to let the Broncos win this week, so the Bengals will be eliminated. Knicks or Burrow would prefer to obviously get Knicks. Oh, sure. I mean, I would rather. I mean, if you're the Chiefs, you would rather face the Broncos and Bo Nix than Burrow. I just don't think that the best thing about the Broncos winning is that I think that the Broncos can beat up the Bills more than the Bengals can, because if the Bengals and the Bills face each other, nobody's getting beat up except the scoreboard operator.
See, and here's the thing that people keep discounting is like, say the Broncos stumble and they lose. As long as the Dolphins beat the Jets, Dolphins are in. Won't matter for the Bengals.
True.
Dolphins are in at that point. So like the Bengals need to win, and then they need the Dolphins and Chiefs to lose. I mean,
the Dolphins losing to the Jets of all people.
Like they still need, like they need the Broncos to lose. They need the Broncos to lose, and then they need the Dolphins to lose. So I mean, like, don't forget that part. So I mean, you'll know the Bengals results on Saturday, obviously, and then Sunday rolls around. Dolphins will see the do against the Jets, and then the pressure will be on the Chiefs. And Broncos, was Dolphins will be playing the same time as Chiefs Broncos, so we'll see how that shakes out.
I mean, in theory, the Bengals could be eliminated on Saturday.
We might be worrying about snow here in Kansas City either way. So
yeah, I'm not excited about that, Nick. I mean, is this true? Because the last thing I saw was like 3 to 8 inches.
I don't know definitively. They don't know definitively what the numbers.
I mean, it is yet. Tuesday. We're talking about the Sunday forecast, so it could be 72 and sunny. So.
I wouldn't go that far. I think the cold set in here, and I think you'll have a great idea Friday night, Saturday morning, what will or won't happen, and what precipitation we'll get, and where we'll go from there.
Yeah, just not really excited about that.
I don't think anybody is.
All right, so I think we're caught up with that stretch of questions that I skipped over, if I'm not mistaken. Because if I had done that, then Cody could have told me an hour ago that my mic was on the wrong one, which I might just need, because I think Cody is my mic patrol. He does a really good job of letting me know when my mic defaults to the wrong one. Oh, wait. Jackson, what do you think of players like Josh Allen starting a few plays on Sunday to keep his streak going? It seems to be the opposite mentality of the Chiefs. I mean, some of the some of the Chiefs streaks would not end. I mean, the biggest ones I'm thinking of are the, consecutive games with a catch that both Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins have. As long as they don't play, their streaks don't come to an end.
Yes, I mean, I don't know. I just know that they're gonna let him walk out there for a minute and be like, "Hi guys," and then to do a handoff and then step off the field or something is what it sounds like.
And I mean, I'm trying to remember. I mean, as far as like Creed and Trey and Tooney, if they've got some Iron Man streaks going, that maybe you would let them keep them going.
I remember Mitchell Schwartz had his going there for a long time.
Yes. And Mitchell, I would love to have. I mean, I've always heard there's a great story with Mitchell and Joe Thomas, because they both had Iron Man streaks going at the same time, and I've always heard that there was a trick play that the Browns had that was going to have both of them off the field, and it's just like, no, you can't. No, that's not what we do. No.
Mm-hmm. The next question, 426 with Sarah, I believe.
You are a great producer, Nick. If I ever say anything differently,
you won't.
You say Seamus?
No, Sarah 73 or 426. I don't know if you answered that.
I saw Seamus asking about my cat, and unfortunately, if you're referring to Izzy passed away. So I'm sorry to bring everybody down with that.
Quite a while ago.
Sarah, are the guys practicing this week? Well, they will starting tomorrow, Nick.
Mm-hmm. We'll be there. I don't know if it'll be indoors or out, but it'll be cold either way. Carrying the gear to the podium. Yeah,
Andy gave them kind of an extended break, because usually, I mean, if they played on a Thursday, which obviously they played on a Wednesday this time around, normally they'd like come in for maybe a walkthrough on Sunday. But from the way Andy was talking yesterday, he didn't do that this time around. I mean, he gave them the whole weekend off, so that's a little bonus time. So yeah, tomorrow would really be the first day back at practice in a little while, and the first one that full practice that they've had in a while this week, because they've had 2 short weeks the last couple of weeks.
Good. They needed their minds reset.
You had ham on Christmas. What food is on tap for New Year's? Pork shoulder. I mean, it's actually, pork shoulder sounds pretty good, Nick. But I have absolutely no plans whatsoever after the live stream for New Year's dinner or anything like that. If anything, there's a chance I might fix a leaky faucet.
Wow. That's how I always envisioned you spending your New Year's Eve in 2024.
Anything on tap for the Jacobs family tonight?
I don't know. We'll see. The possibilities are endless. A
lot can happen.
But we are going to wait and weather through this lightning round before we find out.
Pie Desert. I know we've addressed this previously, but isn't it a bit embarrassing that Andy Reid never seems to come up in the Coach of the Year discussions? This honestly was a year from heck, but Andy did okay. I mean, I'm the same, Nick. I mean, I don't know how you can go 15-2 or 16-1 and not be in the conversation for Coach of the Year, especially with the amount of injuries that this team had. And I just see other teams around the league having all sorts of problems. I mean, Andy Reid has got 2 of the most prominent players in the league as far as, guys who have distractions off the field that could be an impact on them. And yet, this team doesn't have any issues with any of that whatsoever.
So, I'll address it again. Coach of the Year stuff. Here's the thing you need to remember. Coach of the Year is given to people. Coach of the Year award is, hey, we didn't have expectations for you, and you surpassed them. Or we thought you guys are going to be lowly like you normally are, and you weren't. So here's an award to recognize that you did better than last time. Or the previous person that was in charge of the organization. The real Coach of the Year award is the Lombardi Trophy. But win that doesn't get taken from you. That never gets forgotten. And you get jewelry for your ringer on top, for your ring finger on top of it. So, like that's the one to worry about. And then that's what helps you get in the Hall of Fame. Not like, hey, were they Coach of the Year? Were they Coach of the Year this year? No. Are they a Super Bowl champion? Are they a 3-time Super Bowl champion? Are they a 4th-time Super Bowl champion? That's what gets you in the Hall of Fame. So, Coach of the Year is the equivalent of trying to be the best at exercising. Lombardi Trophy is where you build your legacies. So, like, I mean, I know we keep obsessing about this and we talk about it all year long. Doesn't mean he didn't do a great job. Doesn't mean that he's not one of the best coaches ever. But Hall of Fame will take care of where that individual is at. Lombardi trophies is where you build your legacy. AFC championships where you build your legacy. Andy has done plenty to showcase that he's arguably one of the best coaches of all time.
Kevin Stefanski has 2 NFL Coach of the Year awards.
Yeah, because he's been to Cleveland Browns, and they didn't have expectations.
And he's at least 4 Lombardi awards short of the Hall of Fame.
You won't have to worry about him. Him and the Hall of Fame are not two things that go together right now.
What I also love, and my one and only point, is that there is a reasonable chance that the Coach of the Year award, which typically goes to the coach of the most improved team, will go to a coach who won more games than last year. That was still fewer than the number of games that Andy Reid won more than last year. Andy Reid might win 5 more games than he won last year in the regular season, and and this year's Coach of the Year might win fewer games than that, more than they won last year.
If PFWA wants to make a Coach of the Decade, he can give it to Andy, because Andy's still yet to have a losing season. But to be Coach of the Decade means you have to be employed for the entire decade with that team, and there's not many coaches that do that outside of Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, and Andy Reid. In terms of staying power, that's the biggest accomplishment. That's an even bigger accomplishment because that check keeps clearing from that same place.
I love this question because, I mean, even though we've kind of talked about this subject before, I mean, we haven't had it in a while. I do like this question because it's just giving the proper respect and appreciation to the people who do deserve it. Connor, I feel like the first time I haven't recognized you, Connor. If you've been around for a while, greatly appreciate it, but enjoy the question. Top 3 impactful people from the Chiefs over the last 5 years, players, coaches, owner, etc. I mean, I'm assuming our 3 might be the same 3, Nick, but
you go for it, Matt.
I will go with, obviously, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and man, we're just, gosh, I am going to say Brett Veach.
Okay.
I'm only leaving out Clark Hunt because I feel like that Clark's most impactful decision was made 10 years ago, 11 years ago. So
the only decision he had to make.
It was the only decision he had to make. But
I'm just saying, like, he made the decision that set the course for 12 to 13 years, and that's why I asked him about it when he had that presser a while back. Like, is this the culture that they created? Was that what he envisioned? And he joked that it's even better than what he thought, and 100% agree with him. So I don't know if there's necessarily top 3. And the reason I say this because there's too many people involved in that. Because then, hypothetically, I mean, Andy Reid, you're always going to put number 1. Patrick Mahomes, you're going to put number 2. Like, those 2 are going to be the constant ever presence in why the Chiefs are successful. Number 3 is where things get touchy because you could put Travis Kelce there, you could put Chris Jones there, you could put Brett Veach there, you could put Steve Spagnuolo there. You're not going to be wrong with any of them. And then if you really want to get sneaky, you can put Tyreek Hill there, because of what he helped them do when they won the Super Bowl and then when they traded him away, what they got in return for him. So, like, I mean, you're not going to be wrong no matter who you make as your 3rd person. But if you had done a Mount Rushmore, the top 5, I think that would have been a little bit tougher. That doesn't mean ask that question. But
I think there's only 4 on Rushmore, right?
Well, you know what? We're building a new one, okay?
we're carving a new spot on Rushmore.
Yeah, there's room to carve more.
I think you artfully ducked out of naming a 3rd one, though, Nick. I respect that.
I told you it doesn't. Like, they're all equally impactful.
Don, great message. Love that. There you go. I don't.
What are you looking at? 433 or what?
Yes.
Might as well put it up there.
Well, that lady who runs the press conferences always sounds stressed out and in a rush. I mean, I think I know who you're talking about, Pano. I can tell you that. I mean, she's never stressed out and in a rush. She's probably in a rush because she wants to get people in and out of there and on time and on schedule. But she's a super pro, so I'm going to give her props.
Yeah, she does a great job, and they do a great job over there. They have a lot of. Here's the thing you understand: they got a lot of demands, not just like local KC media. Because during some of those windows, at the same time, they're doing recording national stuff. So like there's times whenever like Mahomes or Kelsey may be doing something as well nationally that you may not see right then and there, but you see in a couple hours, and they may be doing that at that time. And so there's a certain window that they have available for media availability stuff that they have to get. The amount of requests that they get on a daily basis, being the national entity that they are now, like I don't envy how many demands they have to probably turn down, how many they have to try to fit into schedule each week, and how they have to go about that. So they got a lot on their plate.
I will just put this up very, very briefly for legal reasons, but I'm a straight shooter. I feel like I've established that I will call out things when I need to be called out. But in this case, and the person you're referring to this year, Kelsey, is a true pro. I mean, I'm not saying that to suck up in any way whatsoever, because like I said, I think I'm a straight shooter that has called out things when they need to be called out. She does not need to be called out, because she has to be the one that tells these big, highly paid football players that don't want to be there, where they need to go, where they need to do their interviews, because none of them want to do any of this stuff for the most part. 98% of the time, the players do not want to do their podiums or their interviews or anything of this nature. So I appreciate everything that they do. So I say Happy New Year and thank you for the hard work. So there you go. Lightning round.
That's what needed the ticker crawl. All right.
I never know, Nick, what's going to get me in trouble. So I never know. So I feel like, I just sometimes to be on the safe side.
All right. That's fine. So, better safe than sorry. I get it.
Ethan, why does Andy always seem so enthused when he talks to the media? How is he normally?
I don't know. I feel like he's pretty enthusiastic when he talks to me. Okay.
Very well said.
No, am I wrong?
I'm not. You're not wrong. And I just think this is funny, because this is a conversation that I probably have with people a couple of times a week about what kind of mood do you think Andy was in today? Because Andy has to me, and maybe that's where I need to put the banner back up, there's a Monday Andy, there's a Wednesday Andy, and there's a Friday Andy. And and sometimes he's more enthusiastic than others on each of those days, but there is a level of enthusiasm for each of those days. I mean, because usually he's much more enthusiastic earlier in the week than he is later in the week. And occasionally he'll come in above or below those lines. But I mean, I think he also fits into this category, which is that one of his least favorite parts of the job is talking to the media. Because I think Andy has made it fairly clear the thing he loves most about his job is teaching football, and anything that is not teaching football is his least favorite part of the job.
And what are my questions about typically?
Well, your questions are typically from the angle of learning more about football.
Oh yeah, heck yeah, they are. No, look, AD answers what he has to. He's done it long enough. He knows how to handle what he needs to and get the points across that he needs to, not give away too much information to the opponent. He's an old school mentality in that way. And above all else, is he probably different with his family? Is he different with the players behind the closed doors? Of course. And is he a jokester? Of course. And he's been a jokester with us sometimes whenever he's not in front of the podium. So I mean, Andy's got a good personality. He's got a playful personality, but he's also got a workman's mentality. And, he came from a family that worked hard, and he works just as hard. And to get to where he got to, he had to work hard, and him and Tammy had to make a lot of sacrifices that he's told us about over the years. And I've read about over the years before they even got here, to where, Andy's mentioned before that he was selling hot dogs on campus to make ends meet when he was at San Francisco State. So Andy deserves all that he's gotten in terms of the Super Bowl wins and everything, because of how much he had to grind to get to this point, and how much he had to go through, and how much sacrifices him and his family made for them to get to this point and to be a football family and to be a football coach. So, look, media is a part of the job. He's got it down to pat how he has to say stuff, how he has to go about stuff, and not give opponents any bulletin board material. Show opponents respect, make sure the team shows them respect, and constantly set the tempo each week of how they need to work, how they need to be how they need to handle it. And for people that talk about accountability, sometimes I'm telling you, Andy knows how to hold people accountable. I'm just saying we've witnessed that personally. So like he knows how to hold people accountable when he needs to. But like, yeah, there's a reason the Chiefs have had the success they've had, and there's a reason why the players have had the success they have, and why some of the coaches have had the success that they've had.
And, on one hand, Andy is not dramatically different to me at a press conference or a podium or with media than, say, Mike Holmgren was. I think, he shares a lot of those personalities and characteristics, but I also, at the same time, feel like that Andy spent 14 years in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia, bless their hearts, has one of the worst media corps in the world. I mean, the Philadelphia media would badmouth a baby on New Year's Day. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And I don't think that Andy has ever, gotten over the Philadelphia media. So he probably has the same guard and up that he had to have there, because Philadelphia is terrible. I mean, we're much nicer, Nick. And I still think that we're professional. I think we do our jobs. We're just not as big of a jerk as sometimes that Philadelphia media can be. And there's no doubt. I mean, it is universally acknowledged. Philadelphia is the worst.
Matt, we're really going to get the lightning rounds. We got a lot of questions to get through so that people can watch the college football playoffs.
All right, lightning round. Chris's bold prediction for 2025, legendary Penn Quaker Justin Watson earns the Super Bowl MVP award in February. I will say my bold prediction for Super Bowl MVP, Nick, will be Trent McDuffie after he gets an interception.
I don't have any bold predictions right now. I'm just trying to get through today.
I was hoping for at least a bold prediction on what you're going to have for dinner.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure right now.
Better New Year's Eve snack, barbecue meatballs or Little Smokies?
Always Little Smokies.
Oh, I mean, if I got time, I might run to the grocery store now just to get the ingredients for my Aunt Anne's party meatballs, because those are awesome.
Well, you better hurry up, because I don't remember what time they closed on New Year's Eve, and they were packed. They were packed when I was at Hy-Vee earlier. They had almost every cash register open. Every checkout register was open, 4 or 5 deep of people waiting.
Brian wants to know, is the new linebacker any good? Why did the Chiefs grab him out of the blue? Former Raider linebacker, is it Drake Taylor? I'm trying to remember his name, Nick, on the practice squad.
I remember they got the linebacker yesterday. I want to say Justin Lynch, but I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, there you go. Where did Drake Taylor come from? I think that's a much more likely name. You think I'm doing my job over here? I can't remember the name of the new practice squad linebacker. Oh, Nick. Not my best moment, Nick. Blake Lynch. We were both wrong. But
no, I said Lynch.
You said Lynch? Yes.
I said Justin Lynch. Oh, well.
I think... don't ask me what I said. I was way off.
So we're not 100% sure because we can't even get the name right. So,
I have no comments on him whatsoever. No, I don't know enough about him. I just know that at this is the time of year when Brett Veach is not afraid to just turn over last couple of spots on the practice squad, looking for new talent for next year. This to me is not the type of move that Brett Veach makes for 2024. It's for 2025 in mind, because right now, that's what's kind of on the bottom of their radar, is just turning over, looking for guys who might be worthy of reserve future contracts once the season ends, and they're looking towards the 2025 roster.
All right, Matt, 439. Jesus.
Can Jesus use ketchup instead of barbecue sauce on ribs?
Can you? Yes. Should you? No.
That's a fair answer. I will agree with it. I will not disqualify it because I love ketchup, but you should use technically, sauce on the side. You should just use a nice dry rub on your ribs. But
see,
rest all the starters. Need to lose this game so that you don't get the Bengals.
Again, the Dolphins are still in the way. Dolphins
are still in the way. Who do you think will be the MVP in football this year?
It says Matt Derrick, so I have no obligation to this question.
Well, I'm asking you, who do you think will be the
Matt,
MVP?
No,
you have
Matt
a
Derrick.
vote.
Lightning round.
Lightning round. I'm still torn. I mean, my vote will either go towards, I am fairly certain, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or Saquon Barkley, and I have not decided which one I will be voting for.
Good job, Matt. Proud of you.
Thoughts on the 4 college football playoff games, Nick?
I'm curious to see if Boise State can upset Penn State tonight. Not sure that they'll be able to. And Texas will beat Arizona State, although I'll be rooting for Arizona State. I expect Oregon to destroy Ohio State, but we'll see. And I expect Georgia to win over Notre Dame, but we shall see.
I am with all of those assessments, and I've got Oregon as the national champion, which probably means Oregon's going to lose to Ohio State. But
no.
Jesus, will Humphrey move to guard for the Chiefs? What's the strategy on that possible move? I was just thinking about this today, Nick, because remember last year when Creed's hand was hurt and everybody thought that he couldn't play center anymore and needed to be moved to guard? And this is the first question I think I've gotten about this since a year ago.
Pretty sure they paid him to be their elite center for the foreseeable future.
I think he's staying at center too. I mean, I think that's because dude's had a great year, and nobody's talking about the problems with the snap anymore, that his hand's not hurt.
Yeah, that seems to have gone away. Oh, no.
Darren, are we out of years to bring Kelley Endo back as an exclusive rights-free agent? Which year is this for Kelley Endo? I feel like he's got one more year left.
It shows he's got 2 years experience right now. 2025, he's an ERFA.
So he would still be exclusive rights next year. So
that's what they're claiming.
There you go. That would sound right to me. So yeah, they would give you exclusive rights next year, and that means he would be restricted in 26. So you could still some time with Mike Kelley Endo if you want him.
Yep.
Thinking which 2 at running back, Brian? Are you talking about which 2 active, inactive?
Well, I guess who do you think is going to be the 2 running backs on Sunday?
I mean, I imagine that just because of numbers, I think Samaje Perine will be active, but may not play. I think Carson Steele for sure. I would elevate Keontae Ingram, but your mileage may vary.
I think Carson Steele, and like you said, maybe Ingram. We'll see.
Bipic seems to think that DeAndre Hopkins might need 1 touchdown to earn $500,000. I would not dispute it because I have not seen that for sure. It's entirely possible. Were you looking at it real quick, Nick, to see if...
No, because I have no interest.
Well put. And it's always impossible. I mean, sometimes there's details that we don't get privy to, but he does have 6 touchdowns, would be worth $500,000 to him. So, and how many yards does he have this year off the top of your head? Nick, do you know?
Nope, no idea.
No idea. Do not care. That's why I love you like a brother. He has 5 touchdowns and 610 yards. So technically he is about now he's already got, technically it's only worth $250,000 to him because he got a $250,000 bonus for 4 touchdowns. So he'd get $250 more for a 6th touchdown. He's 140 yards away from $250,000 for yardage, and he is 9 catches away from 250,000 yards. That's a lot to get in one game to just force feed and would be unnecessary. So, I mean, and this goes back to last year. I mean, I think the Chiefs should have just said, "Hey, Chris, we found the sack for you. Here's your check. Don't worry about it, bud." I mean, it still counts against the salary cap if you pay it. But I would, frankly, if it was that big of a deal to DeAndre Hopkins, I'd just cut him a check right now and say, "Hey, we found the touchdown for you, DeAndre. Knock yourself out. Happy New Year."
I'll be honest, Matt. You said a lot of numbers, and my brain shut down halfway through it.
He needs
my brain only handles so many numbers. It's already shut down.
9 catches, 140 yards, and a touchdown would be worth $750,000 to DeAndre Hopkins. All right.
That wasn't a challenge, Matt. That was me telling you.
Alicia wants to know, do you think Jamar Chase gets paid in Cincy next year? Curious who you think our biggest competitors will be next year.
I don't think Jamar Chase gets paid by the Bengals. I think they stretch that thing out. I think they franchise tag after, because he's still got one more year next year. And so he's, in my opinion, he's going to have to play hardball with him. And he's going to have to sit out, not show up, whatever. And then he's got to stick with that if he wants to get paid and see what the Bengals want to do at that point. And then I still think they're going to franchise tag him multiple years, and then they'll exhaust what they want to with him on that front, and then we'll see what happens from there. But I mean, it's the Bengals owner is notoriously known for not wanting to pay big market setting contracts. Like, I mean, I know people can say, well, he paid Joe Burrow, right, because they wanted they wanted some upgrades to their stadium. So like Joe Burrow's the face that gets them what they want. But I mean, look, hey, if they pay Jamar Chase, then that's fantastic for Burrow, and that's fantastic for the city of Cincinnati that deserves that. But from what ownership's shown over the years, they're not big into paying top dollar. Like, I expect T. Higgins to hit the free agent market next year, and I expect T. Higgins to probably be like a Charger. Like, I think Los Angeles Chargers are going to be like the number one spot that I'm mentally expecting him to go.
And here's an interesting question for you, Nick. I mean, if you had just X number of dollars to put into someone, and I don't think that the Chiefs will be in that market, because I think if the Chiefs wanted to pay $30 million for a receiver, like T. Higgins might get on the open market, I think they would have paid Tyreek Hill. But would you, if you had your choice of putting a bunch of money into a player, would it be Trey Smith or T. Higgins?
Trey Smith is going to be more reliable. T. Higgins had a lot of injuries this year that I would have questions on. What are those injuries going to continue? I know he had a dominant game in overtime, and that's going to help him get paid with another team if they make it to the playoffs. I mean, him and Jamar are going to try to continually get themselves paid and everything, and I'm not knocking him on that either. But I'm also realistic in the fact that the Bengals haven't shown me they're willing to pay top dollar on a regular basis. Because, I mean, you got a lot of players on that team right now, like Trey Hendrickson, that are wanting new contracts and people wanting upgrades, and it's not happening. It doesn't seem to be happening.
Yeah, and I mean, and when it comes to like Jamar Chase, I mean, you got to the issue of it, which is that the cheapness of the organization, and it's just for historically not paying. It's that when you sign a player of that nature, you've got to put a lot of money up front, whether it is through the signing bonus or it's in the escrow as far as future guaranteed money. And that's where the Bengals have notoriously been one of those teams that just doesn't want to shell out that much money up front. But they will have control over Jamar Chase. If you want Jamar Chase, you could probably get him out of Cincinnati. It's just going to cost you a bunch of draft picks and a bunch of money. And those are two assets that the Chiefs do not have a ton of.
Yeah, when I'm looking at receiver groups, I'm looking at potentially for down the road here, we're going to see what happens coaching change-wise, but the Falcons could easily use T. Higgins, his athletic ability, his explosiveness. Obviously, the Panthers could, but I don't think they'll be in that market. Chicago Bears, I think they're already kind of set financially, and also who they could potentially go after. It wouldn't stun me if it's the Raiders and Chargers battling each other for T. Higgins, and I think the Raiders will have a new coach. We'll see if that's Mike Vrabel or somebody else down the road here. We'll see what happens with the Jaguars. Texans would be another smart place for T. Higgins to go to. Pair him with Nico Collins, that would actually be really, really intriguing. But, yeah, I mean, those are kind of the primary spots, and, I mean, we'll see what happens in San Francisco with Debo and the return of Ayuk since they paid him. So that'll be interesting. Then we'll see what happens Rams-wise. Rams could be another spot if they move on from Cooper Kupp. I mean, they got Puka, but maybe they want to add on somebody like T to complement Puka.
My good friend Andrew popping in with a question. We've kind of talked about it a little bit, but I want to put it a different way. And Andrew popping in lets me give a big shout out to our also at least it's not a mutual friend because I don't know him, but Blake Craig, 56-yard field goal yesterday for the Tigers. Also had a 51-yarder way to go, MIZ. But Andrew, do you want the Bengals in the playoffs? I mean, if I'm the Chiefs, that would be the second best team that could face Kansas City to me. I mean, if you want to talk about who you don't want to face, number one is the Chargers, number two is the Bengals, at least in the divisional round. Is that how you'd put them, Nick?
I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to face whoever they're going to face. Just run over their face and just run over them. Run over them, their face, and everything. Just get to a three-peat. Like, do what you got to do to get to a three-peat. Whether you're going to go through the Bengals or the Bills or the Ravens, whoever you got to do, you got to be able to just get to that point and get to that level and have that level of football efficiency and unpredictable nature that opponents aren't expecting. Like, it just do what you got to do to get there.
Brian, do the Ravens have a shot at knocking off Buffalo? I think they will knock off Buffalo.
They have a very real shot of doing it. It's just a matter of how Lamar handles up against pressure.
That is 100% truth. Sorry, not sure if asked, but assume Tooney is moving back to left guard. Who is playing left tackle? Choro, we really don't know for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're either going to have DJ Humphreys playing this week. He does really well, stays healthy. He gets a left tackle. Tooney goes to left guard. Or Tooney stays a left tackle with Kelley Endo, and that's how you roll in the playoffs, as Coach Reid would say.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see a scenario where DJ Humphreys comes back and plays left tackle in the playoffs if he doesn't play Sunday to at least see where he's at. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, you brought him in for a reason, but boy, just playing 3 quarters for you. I mean, that to me is like it just seems like it would be a tough ask for the player, much less, just knowing what to expect going into the postseason. Brian, isn't Tooney making low grade left tackle money already? Well, I mean, next year his cap hit would be 27 or 26.9 million. So yeah, I mean, that's actually is low end left tackle money.
Yes, he is making low end tackle money, but I don't think he'll play a full season at tackle personally. Doesn't mean he hasn't done well at it. Doesn't mean that he hasn't been good at it. But at the end of the day, his best position is at guard.
And I mean, it's definitely a testament just how good of a player he is. Because I mean, the fact that he can hold his own for a number of games there, while not having the size and the metrics that the NFL likes for its left tackles to have, that's still pretty impressive.
Let's see, get a question at 5'10".
Did I miss one at 5'10"?
5'10", Sarah 73.
Oh, there you go. How is it determined who the Chiefs get to play on January 18th or 19th? Nick, you want to break that one down?
Lowest remaining seed, and typically the way things have been going, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, Matt, but seems like the number 1 seeds play on a Saturday has kind of become the pattern. Now that we've said that, it's going to be the exact opposite happening, exactly. But it seems like the past couple of years since they've gone to only one team having a bye, it seems like both 1 seeds have somehow have played on Saturday, because then, if I remember correctly, then the following Sunday they get rewarded with an extra day of rest for being a 1 seed if they make it.
Yeah, I mean, there's still nothing about the NFL playoffs that makes any sense to me and how they do the scheduling. I mean, I'll never understand it, but and just when you think that there's a pattern, they change it.
Yeah, we'll find out.
No conscience. Do you feel the Chiefs will draft another left tackle, or are they done with that for the moment?
I mean, if you draft a tackle, I think you need a coach that can develop them along the offensive line, and I don't know. We'll see what the Chiefs agree with that assessment or not in March or April.
I think we're getting into the comments here about the top 3 individuals in Chiefs the last 5 years. Yeah. So Spags with the nomination. I did not glaze Chris Jones, but I will say Chris would have been for me on the probably like 6th or 7th, because I think I would have had Spags, Kelsey, and Clark at 3, 4, and 5. So Chris would probably be at 6. And if I told Chris that, he probably would pound me into the ground. So I do respect and understand that. So, and then there's Reid, Spags, Mahomes, and Jones on your Mount Rushmore from Brian. And you can have a 5th because Nick says there's room for 5.
You just got to chisel more space in.
Chris, Carson Steele to the Pro Bowl. Does this feel earned, or is it like a lack of options?
Look, here's the thing about the Pro Bowl. That's the fan vote. Players and coaches still got to vote, so we'll see how it ends up evening out.
Yeah, I mean, part of it's just that there are no real fullbacks in the league anymore. They're few and far between because even Carson Steele, I'm not even sure Carson, like I said earlier, I don't know that Carson knows that he's a fullback. But yes, Jesus, Andy did want to be the sports writer. I mean, he was a writer. He's got some bylines in his day. So I genuinely think he does appreciate and understands what we do. And there's times when he tries to give us answers, especially, to people that he at least, is trying to help. If you've been a jerk to him and everything like that, or at least how he's perceived, I think sometimes he might not be that interested. But I know in some of our group discussions with Andy that we get like to have at training camp and everything, he's gone out of his way, to say like, I'm trying to give you an answer here because I understand what you're trying to do. And so I think he does get it. So, but NFL coaches, man, NFL coaches are more paranoid than Nick. So
what makes Jesus think that I'm paranoid we won't make it to 2025?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just know. Maybe it's just because you do have that paranoid kind of default position, Nick.
Okay.
But I mean that with love.
Okay.
Oh, let's see. Where are we going next? You have a question that you want to answer, Nick?
We only got 3 or 4 left, so then lightning round has ended 35 or 45 minutes later.
There's 5 teams and 1 Vrabel, Nick.
Yep. So
who is getting him?
I don't know who's getting him. We'll see when things unfold next week.
I mean, Mike Vrabel is the coach I would hire if I had an NFL team.
Yes, if you're looking for a head coach, he's the one you need to go get. Now, where he ends up, we will find out. But I think a smart place would be the New York Giants if they're willing to do it. But I don't know if they're willing to do it. They've got more infrastructure in there than people realize of former Vrabel people at defensive coordinator and in the front office than people realize. So it's there for the taking if they want a smooth transition.
And I mean, the Giants, they do have a guy who won NFL Coach of the Year just 2 years ago. So
I don't wish that on any of the Giants coaching staff, and I don't wish that on the Giants front office. But but I'm saying there's a lot of opportunity there to not have to turn over as much in New York with Vrabel's there.
Will Gruden be pulled back into the NFL? No,
I don't know. I mean, I know that the name's already being put out there and trying to be put in the coaches cycle. I know Rex Ryan's trying to put his name in the coaches cycle, saying he's going to interview with the Jets. So
I know. I'm sure the Jets love that being out there too. So that's the most predictable thing in the world would be Rex Ryan, letting everybody know I'm being interviewed for this job. Rex, they're interviewing you out of pity and kindness. You are not getting that job. And John Gruden's not getting a job until, I don't know, maybe about 20 years after his lawsuit against the NFL gets settled. So, Andrew's question: should the Bengals defensive coordinator be fired? Do you think the player lacking talent is defensively? I mean, Lou Anarumo is one of the best in the biz. It's just that they've let all his players go, Nick.
He got old, he got slow there, and they, like Matt said, they let a lot of players go in free agency. So that's not on Lou, but if Lou needs to move on, then if they decide that Lou needs to move on, then good luck to them because they're going to have a lot of problems there in Cincinnati if Lou Anarumo is not there.
Yeah, that's my expectation, KC Chiefs 12, because he's pretty much the only pure fullback in the AFC. Fan voting is nice, but yeah, it only counts for a third, and the other third usually wins. The other 2/3 usually wins. Nick, did I miss any questions that you wanted to talk about? Did I miss anything?
Nope, Matt.
Are you sure?
Did not. Did not.
Well, Nick is ready to start New Year's Eve, so it's officially underway now. Nick, I appreciate you greatly for joining us not only tonight but every week for the Tuesday Q&A, and I thank you for allowing me to do 41 as the mic with you. You are a true friend, and I am truly grateful and appreciative of you.
All right, Matt. This is a game where I leave. Leave now.
Nick is going to play the game of he's not here anymore.
Surprise!
Happy New Year, Nick. Happy New Year to you all. Greatly appreciate you tuning in. If you were listening to this on the rewatch later, everything, truly appreciate that as well. It's been a great year. Hopefully we have a great 2025 as well. A lot of fun stuff ahead. The Chiefs have obviously a playoff run in front of them and a lot of great stories to talk about. So, this weekend, 41 is the mic. We'll be back on regular schedule after the Chiefs game on Sunday. And then we'll be back next week, next Tuesday night, kind of a regular schedule probably, back on Tuesday evening with the Q&A. And as always, in between, you can go to Chiefs Digest on YouTube and fire away with questions for us. And they can all be glad to answer. So everybody have a happy and safe new year. We will see you in 2025 talking Chiefs football. And